Welcome. You are at the CCC,
where there are no outside issues. My name's Anthony. I'm an addict and an alcoholic, another bozo on the bus, and I care about you.
Yes, and I'm Louie Lou. My pronouns are he and him, and I am in recovery for crystal meth and alcohol, and I am always in search of balance. Yes, and each week we strive to create a brave space where we can engage in conversations around topics of recovery.
And our intention is to hold and inspire better spaces for more people in recovery by tackling issues sometimes used to separate us.
Yes, but before we do that, please like, share, comment, and rate this episode.
Rate this episode
Rate.
And ding that bell.
Oh yeah, ding the bell.
Ding the bell. And now the disclaimer.
And
The
now
views,
the
thoughts, and and now the disclaimer. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed on At the CCC are ours alone. We do not represent anyone but ourselves. The material and information shared here is for general information purposes only. In other words, we're just a couple of friends behind a mic here to entertain you. We landed that so hard.
We did.
We landed that so hard.
It so hard. It's like I'm all, damn.
Bam, we did it. Dismount. Okay.
Yes.
So we have someone here today, Louis.
We do.
Who is it? I don't know either.
Well, we have some people here.
I know.
Let's start with somebody that everyone knows. It's like
she needs no introduction. She is the one, the only. She brought her bangs today. She is looking fabulous, Miss Bonnie Violet.
Hey, Bonnie.
Hi, everyone. How's it going? So glad to be back. Jaylon's like, who is she?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
It's so good to be back.
It's good to see you. It's good to see you. And we have another person with us today. Who is this person?
Hi, everybody. My name is Joelle, and Josefina.
Who's Josefina?
Me.
And we'll talk more about that in a second.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So how's everyone doing?
So I decided the other day that instead of checking in, I'm going to use this in honor of Black History Month. I'm going to use this time to spew one fact about Black people and recovery.
Let's hear it.
And so I want everybody to know the Black population actually enters rehabilitation at 15.2 versus 9.6% of the general population of whom need substance abuse treatment. However, due to multiple factors, the rates of recovery success are lower in short socioeconomic issues that lead to recidivism, and relapse are the main culprit.
Yeah.
And I thought about that because it's like, I don't want to be the exception, but just like living past 25, this is pretty amazing. It's like if I got what I deserved, I probably would not have made it into these rooms. So
yeah,
if you got what you deserved, your life would be so much more. I think.
No,
I think you
I like that
the
too.
world.
And that's so smart changing that, because I think that I mentioned that because I want to encourage everyone. Just give a Black person a hug today.
Consent, right?
That's because the worst thing I can cause some serious trouble. But how are you, Anthony?
I'm doing really good. Thank you for asking. I'm basically counting down the days until match. So it's on the 16th. For folks who've been following at home, that's when I find out where I'll be doing psych residency.
Nice.
It would probably start in July. So I've just been counting down the days until then, and I've been just still writing and editing away and trying to center my recovery. Actually, I feel really proud because I feel I have been centering my recovery, so that's been much more doable. How about you, Joelle?
Good. I'm doing great. Here with these amazing people. Shout out to my sister, Minnie.
On the strength.
Yeah, doing good. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah.
I'm very, very grateful to be here.
It's good to have you.
Yeah, it's just nice. We were chatting a little earlier about everything, and we were joking and laughing, and I was talking about Minnie. We're chatting on a upcoming performance, and I was like, "Oh shit, she's about to read me."
And in case you're wondering, my drag alter ego is Minnie Happy Returns, because she's just referring to me in the drag community. We have a tendency to refer to each other as their drag names. But if you didn't know that I did drag, it's like you'd be thinking, why?
You haven't
are
been
you-
listening.
Yeah,
Right.
okay, yeah.
Well, and I almost, when I was doing the promos, I was like, should this be Mini Happy Returns, not Lulu? But
Oh my God, it's like I'm all Minnie.
Right.
Minnie shows up where she needs to show up.
it's like 3 drag queens and Anthony.
That's
That's been like my whole life.
yeah.
I was like, I was raised by drag queens and butch lesbians.
You would look amazing in drag. You have like you have a beautiful nose.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I would love.
You were just talking about bearded drag, right? Weren't you, Lulu?
Bearded
Yeah.
drag.
Oh well, I mean, yeah.
No, we would shave. that
Benji's
face. We
been
would
trying to
shave
get
that
me
face.
in a wig for a while.
Well, I mean,
that's
well,
another.
not
We
like-
don't need to. We don't need to talk about that on here.
Yeah,
well, I
maybe
mean,
Some role play.
we can always get you baby heels. So you don't have to wear anything.
Kitten
super
hills.
and a little kitten wig
A
too.
little
With
kid.
it.
Yeah,
a little,
a little bob.
A little
But
pop.
Bonnie Violet, how are things in Boise?
Yes.
I'm good. It's I'm like it's snowy. It's not as snowy anymore. It's kind of starting to warm up a little bit, but I'm enjoying it. I just started a new podcast, another recovery podcast with Daphne, who was on the show before, and so that's really been like a big new passion and focus of mine lately. And I'm
Can you
writing
tell
a
us
book.
the name? Wait,
It's
wait,
called-
wait. Slow down. There's a book and there's a podcast. So what's the name of the podcast and what's the name of the book?
So the podcast is Cut and Uncut with Daphne and Bonnie Violet, and that cut is post-op and pre-op, not circumcised and uncircumcised. But hey, and then I started writing my book.
Nice.
It's called Transmission. It's a spiritual autobiography about somebody with HIV who's in recovery. So like you cannot transmit something you haven't got, as well as I'm trans and I'm on a mission.
Oh my God, it's actually-
Nice.
Hey, so I have a question. And okay, so in the past we talked about like you moving to Boise or whatever, and some of the struggles that you had there. What's changed? It's like, do you find that that things have gotten better, that you still have some of the same struggles,
I've been feeling a lot more comfortable in general. I think a lot of the journey has been my own. And so like I've spent a lot of time with myself and being more comfortable with myself. And I think in a lot of ways kind of wrestling with some of my shadows, if you will, in order to really kind of allow me to move to like the next level of life. And, I think there were a lot of, shadows that I've been running and avoiding from for a very long time. And so I think now was the time, and kind of being scared of the world helped that, that I could just kind of like cocoon in with myself and then kind of go from there. So, but I'm ready to take on the world again.
You're a
Yeah.
butterfly. Right
So
on.
how was the transition? Because I know initially here in San Francisco, like you're true iconic, like doing drag and here in the community. Like when you were here and then you transitioned to Boise, like how was it? Was it a big shockwave for you, or was it just something that you just,
It's been really hard. It's such a big different environment, but also like it's where I grew up, and so I left here to kind of become who I am now. And so I didn't think I could be who I am here. And so there's a little bit of just kind of working through some of those fears and like old ways of seeing things, and really trying to let this place change just as much as I did.
Yeah.
That's
that makes
awesome.
Yeah.
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 And I think in the spirit of talking about shifting, maybe we can pivot to today's topic,
You
which
could
is
say transition, no? Let's
well, the thing
transition
is that we've used that word like 3 times in under 3
know,
minutes.
right?
So I was like, I'm trying to. So we're gonna pivot to today's topic, which is drag and recovery. And basically, the idea behind this series for the rest of the month. Today we're going to be talking about like drag and recovery and finding your drag feet. So what is it like to work on developing yourself as a professional drag queen, and also
We're using the term professional.
listen, if you get paid,
Well,
you're a
we can
professional.
try.
Okay, yeah, I guess you're right.
Look,
Yeah,
if
okay.
you made $5, you're a professional.
I'll do anything for $1.
So yeah, we want to talk about, what, just like with any art form, how has drag changed for you? Like, when did you enter into drag? How has recovery changed that for you? And like, where like what direction are you headed in? And of course, I imagine that there's some other thoughts from Bonnie Violet, who's been really involved in the spiritual drag community for quite some time. So let's start off with the 3 questions that we ask everyone. So the first question for you is, where are you from?
I'm originally from Houston, Texas.
Whoa.
But I'd say I am a local San Franciscan because I've been here probably about 11 years. So I would say I'm a native now, but originally from Houston.
You're native to what?
San Francisco.
Oh,
San
okay.
Francisco.
He's like,
Yeah.
don't you dare ask me where I'm from.
I was like, I don't think that means what you think it means.
Well, no. Like,
No, I got it now. I got it now. I was like, what are you talking
Yeah,
about?
Just
What are
because
you
you've been here-
problematic?
you've been here
This or-
long enough.
Yeah,
I'm like, well, I mean,
yeah.
originally Houston.
Yeah.
So I would like to know, like, what motivated you to get sober?
What motivated me to get sober? I wanted to live. I think initially for me is, I think this time around was completely different. I had to lose something to gain something. So I lost something like very crucial and like, I lost somebody dearly to me in sobriety. I don't think I was initially ready to get sober. So I kind of thinking in this way as like, even though I had some time in sobriety, by going out and relapsing and then coming back in and losing that person, I think I was able to find who I am as an individual and focus more on my recovery. But yeah, I feel really strong in my recovery now than I ever been. And I think that
How much time do you have now?
my sobriety birthday is February 16, 2019. So
Very
if
cool.
God permitting, next week I'll have 5 years in sobriety.
Wait, did you get sober during the pandemic?
No, I was sober before the pandemic.
Oh, like just before. When was it? It was 2020.
Yeah, I think it was
Yeah.
before that.
Yeah. Well, right on. Yeah.
But I did have time here and there, but a part of me was like in my recovery, I just didn't really know how to maintain that sobriety.
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course.
I think we all
And-
went through, like, to the whole pandemic thing. We all went through that. I think
Yeah.
lot
That was
of
a rough
folks-
time. A lot of people
Yeah.
went out during that time too.
Oh yeah, I mean-
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like when pandemic hit, I was like, damn, it was so much easier to like get it. But then again, like I already knew what would happen, and so I had like a really amazing sponsor who I was able to connect with like every day and like through Viva text or through
Mhm.
phone call. And so at least for me, I was able to connect with somebody.
So in the spirit of having like you talked about having like a strong recovery, what's your relationship with your higher power?
My higher power changes. It just depends on like how I'm feeling that day. But I mean, I love my higher power. Like it's nice just to like sit in the bathtub for like 15 minutes and just meditate and just kind of just be there and just having the water run on you and just kind of let everything go. And for me, like my higher power is just like somebody that I can walk outside and look at the sky or look at the, look at an animal. I mean, for me, I would say I love the nature. I don't love it, but I like the nature. I love to go biking and having the wind just kind of blow through my face. It's nice. It's a nice.
That's amazing. Like the last few times we asked this question, this has been the same thread.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's as much as we're different, we are exactly
fundamentally the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's really great, Joel. So let's start off just kind of low-hanging fruit here, which is, when did you start doing drag?
I always dabbled with drag even when I was living in Houston.
Cross-dressing.
Well, I didn't really call it that. I mean, it was like dressing up for Halloween and then like doing other social events, but not like fully doing 100% drag. I would say probably when I moved to San Francisco, I dabbled into it. And then when I got 100% sober, that's when I fully did it. And I think initially, like, I performed at Living Sober. And
was it
it was the event at it was before the pandemic, I do believe.
Oh, okay.
And I remember one of the chairperson was there and we were just kind of chit-chatting about it. And I performed and I was like, okay, that was pretty cool. And then I was talking to my former drag mom, Matthew Martin, and then we were just kind of like having a talk about like.
Let me pick up that name.
Yeah, who's Matthew Martin? What? Bonnie, did you catch that? Here, I just got that. There you go.
So like, yeah. So Matthew Martin is he does drag here in the city. He's a performer, cabaret, So it's a little bit different drag than I do. Like, I mean, I don't sing, I can yell. He's more a performer. He's a performer in like a theater way versus like somebody who's a performer who's in a dancer who does like different type of like dancing, to pop music.
So when you say that he's a different performer, I'm wondering how that's changed from. Well, I'm kind of curious. What was your drag like before you got sober? Like, do you feel like you had like a defined character? Like, what was it for you during that time?
I would say probably Josefina didn't really have a character in Houston. She was just kind of like who she was going out.
And who was that?
She was just a mess.
Okay.
She didn't really have like a strong like agenda. She was just there to look cute and go to the bar and just have fun and get wasted. And then can
I ask you a question about that?
Yes.
What was like her purpose? Like, why would she go out?
To be messy.
Okay.
She was she was really messy back in the day.
But did you see someone performing that kind of got you excited about wanting to do it?
Or you just want to be pretty?
So I know initially in Houston, there was a couple like big drag queens that I really cared about. Her name was Miss Coffee.
Oh wait.
Oh,
sorry.
So her name was Coffee, and she was like this.
I don't know her.
performer.
So it's
No,
like
she
I-
doesn't.
Sorry, we don't mean to keep interrupting
And
you.
shout out
Sorry,
to
go
her.
ahead.
She's on there.
Yeah, Miss Coffee and Matthew Matthew.
No, Coffee's a drag performer in Houston right now,
Okay.
and she still performs. She's an amazing person, and I met her like a long time ago.
Okay.
And then there was Lana Blake, who's somebody else who's another drag queen in Houston. These are all these other performers, Karen Dion. So all these, and then Anita Bump, which is another one too.
Oh.
And so these performers were there, and I would see them. I'm like, oh, I want to, be like them. I want to have those movements. And they're like, oh, anybody can do this. It just takes dedication, stride, and motivation. And then I remember Coffee telling me, she's like, drag's not cheap because it's really expensive.
Drag's not cheap unless you're cheap.
Well, it depends on what kind of character you're trying to like manipulate. So like if you're trying to just, if they have like that glam where you're very cute and then you're just like there. But there's a lot of drag queens. I would say drag can be expensive depending on what type of drag you're wanting to do, because it can be completely different.
Which I feel like, Bonnie, the same question. Like, what got you started, and like when did you start?
Yeah, well, the first time I ever got in drag was when I was working at a gay bar to learn how to be gay when I was 20.
At one
I
time.
was training to be gay.
Yeah.
I was learning, and we had to dress up as the opposite sex. I was living as a boy at that time.
Mhm.
So I had to dress as a girl, I guess, or get into drag. And so I got into drag. I looked like Jennifer Grey before the nose job, like in Dirty Dancing.
Jennifer Grey.
Yes.
At the time of my life.
Right. And my first drag name was Idaho. And, right?
Full circle.
Stolen.
Yes. Well, and I think kind of like what Joel was saying, it was like I was just kind of doing it for fun. And then when I got dressed that one time, there was a bunch of club owners at different clubs that wanted to hire me to come perform in their clubs. And I was underage. And so it allowed me to go into the clubs and perform. And this was like, obviously before I got sober. And so I did a couple of shows, but I had a really hard time. I think my internalized transphobia didn't allow me to really, I couldn't handle guys hitting on me as a guy when I was like a cocktail server and then trying to get under my skirt. I was like, wait. I'm a dude who wants to be with dudes, not a dude who wants to be a girl. Like that. I know that's toxic, but that's where like that's where I was at.
Yeah, I mean that's a whole other conversation.
Whenever I would, before I got sober, my drag didn't really take form until after I got sober.
Yeah.
But whenever I would, dress up for Halloween or whatever, there would be this toxic thing where I would make my voice deeper. I would deliberately walk a certain way.
When you were in drag?
It was when I was in drag, and I would make sure people knew that, like,
you were a man.
Yeah, that I was a man.
Well, and I think it's one of the most, masculine, like as a masculine person, I think to get in drag, it almost is the most masculine revealing, I think. when you're like trying to not look masculine, you notice all your masculinity
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot more. Like it seems more prominent than maybe what you would feel. I think especially for me, as I was like a feminine guy, I didn't realize how like manly I was until I went to get in drag, and I was like, oh my God, I have to do
That's
some things.
good point, though.
Yeah, I've mentioned something similar to that a couple years ago, where I said there's nothing more masculine than drag, like because you essentially, like to your point, Bonnie Violet, like you have to undo all the things that you learned without realizing that you learned them. And then there also comes like you also need to be so comfortable in yourself in order to do that well, right? Like to
Yes
what
and
do you,
no.
what are you thinking? What do
I'm
you think?
like,
Yeah.
you know, like I didn't pick up drag again until I got sober, and like at around, well, I'd been sober for a while, and around 40, I think, is when I started doing drag, which was about 4 years ago or so. And like, it was hard. Like it was the hardest thing I've ever done. And I wasn't like I was full of confidence or self-esteem even. It was something that was very vulnerable for me, but it was great that I was at Mascara and I was doing it for like a cause, and I was surrounded by other people in recovery. And so it really allowed me, as somebody who was not comfortable with performing or being on stage, to just be able to just try to put myself out there without it like having to be perfect.
Yeah. And, you know, and the great thing too about Mascara, which I love so much, is
Can you tell us what mascara is?
Mascara is a
Put it on your lashes, usually like with the
well, yeah. So it's kind of the mascara you can get at the pharmacy. No, Mascara is an event that they hold once a month, and it's for performers to come out and do any type of drag that you want to do. And it's a fundraiser to raise money for a sober space for the country club. And
Our hopefully, like our listeners know about the country club.
yeah, so the country
that's
definitely in our name.
That's at the CCC
it's
part.
at the CCC,
And
and it's great because like you're able to perform and like come in and show your talent or whatever talent you have, and it doesn't matter if you have no drag whatsoever. You're still going to be accepted in this drag community, which is pretty amazing.
You said something really interesting. You said if you have no drag. What do you mean when you say that?
Well, first timers, somebody who's dabbling to it, somebody who's you know, like a cross dresser. What do you say? Like a what phrase did you say?
He said cross dresser.
No, not cross dresser.
no,
Remember you said there when they get into drag and they're not really doing drag. What is it?
cross dressing.
Cross dressing. Yeah, cross dressing. But yeah, but drag is like, yeah. So I know for me, it's like, I know when people are performing Mascara, sometimes it's their first time.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
it's their first time doing drag. So that's giving them that platform to say whether if they would be potentially be interested in doing drag, because like doing drag takes forever. It can take you anywhere between a couple hours to get ready. And it's very uncomfortable how you have to initially, you know, get ready, put tights, put padding, and you have to wear very uncomfortable heels.
Go ahead. Were you going to say?
Well, no, I was going to say, okay, so for all three of us, initially, like when I performed, the first time that I performed because I would watch other people do it, and it looked like it was so easy. It looked like, oh my God, it's effortless or whatever. And then the first time I performed, by the time I got on, I had a headache. I was annoyed. I was so done with this, and I didn't perform for a really long time after that. So what is it that pushed you past that first performance? Because, you know, some people fall in love and they dive right in. And some people, when they're faced with the reality of what it actually is to do drag, it can cause you to say, yeah, I'm good. I'm not doing this.
We have a comment before we go on.
Yeah.
G0NNi33.
Well, myself am very grateful to recovery for giving me back drag. Drag is personal for me. It's not just a caricature or character. Vi0l3T and I have a connection because she saved me when I was really in a dark place and no longer wanted to be here years ago. Unfortunately, nightlife and drugs were introduced, and her original purpose was tainted, but recovery has saved us both. That sounds like the beginning of a really good book.
So
Yeah.
Vi0l3T. And then I do want to shout out to Vi0l3T and J0NNi, which I love J0NNi so much, and so she is big she's a big part of my drag, and she's part of Josefina
Mhm.
and Josie.
Yeah.
And she's the one that kind of showed me different techniques of how to make my face look pretty, how to make me to just like the illusion of looking like a woman. And
Mhm.
you know, without Jaylon, you know, I'm telling you, Jaylon gave me them hips, them little butt pads, and let me tell you, I have like a little nice ass running around. But you know, I'm so grateful for Jaylon, and I think initially, you know, she's part of my family. You know, she's like
Absolutely.
So
huge
this is
inspiration.
sorry to talk over you, but you're saying some really interesting things that I want to like dive into. So like one of the things that you're reminding me of is how much community is in drag, and how
Yeah.
at least as far as I know, like drag is not an insular thing, right? It takes community. There's a lot of like apprenticeship, for lack of a better word. They're like houses that form around it. So I want to know, I want to hear more, and from all of you, I want to know more about like how has drag changed in recovery, and what's the level of soul searching or like soul developing that happens when the character comes together.
So I was going to comment on, like, I used to, when I hosted Mascara, I'm a title holder. When I hosted Mascara, I used to make the statement that Mascara is a hub for bad drag. And then I would, as I grew in my recovery and my spirituality,
And you became less rude.
I started to expand that thought to it's an opportunity for anyone to kind of explore, to decide if this is something that they want to do. Jaylon made a very good point. I think that my drag began to grow when I was able to kind of really kind of flesh out who Minnie was as opposed to who Lewis was. Now, mind you, Minnie is Lewis, but there has to be, I almost have to set Minnie over here and look at Minnie as a separate entity so that I could give legs. And that's why I want to encourage anyone who's doing drag to have an opportunity to host and do more than just, because when you perform, sometimes all you do is perform and then you leave and you don't have an opportunity to show them that your character, this person, this entity that you created does not develop a personality. So I think that the growth came in hosting and doing more and really kind of looking at Minnie as Minnie and Lewis as Lewis.
Yeah, and you know the great thing about that too, it's like even for me, is like as like a drag performer, I know initially my first drag mother, you know, she told me like, you know, you need to give back to the community what the community gave back to you. So like for me, it's like Mascara gave me this platform to like connect with a lot of other people and to connect with performers, to different artists, to drag queens, to kings. And for that, like I'm very grateful for, because I was able to get a lot more bookings. And then, you know, that's why if you know the Mascara evers needed anything, or performers or any queens, you know, needed help, I, you know, would do it for them, because, you know, without our community, there's really no drag, you know? So I mean, yeah.
How about you, Bonnie Violet?
Yeah, I mean, I would say what drag has done for me, like once I started doing drag in recovery, my first drag name was 333, or Grace, which was my higher power. And I really feel like that's what drag has been for me. I think drag has afforded me platforms and opportunities to try on more of me. And I think as a trans femme person, that's what it was for me. I don't know that everyone who does drag doesn't have that experience, but I know for me, I found Bonnie Violet in my drag, and eventually now my drag name is also Bonnie Violet. But I think, I had a hard time with being in group dynamics. When I first started doing drag, even at Mascara, I had a really hard time. That was like my own shit that I kind of got to work through. Like I remember Euphoria is like my favorite drag queen.
Same.
And I got to perform with her, which I was like, I just loved. And then she asked me to be her drag mom. And I said, no, because
What?
I know exactly, because I was thinking, okay, but then she has other children. And then it was like all my family dynamics just kind of came up, and I was like, no, I can't, and I noticed that, yeah, what it's allowed me to do is really lean into and start to foster different sorts of relationships and being in community. And now I have a community of folks who I can lean on in drag, or, you know what I mean? So it just gave me a safe place to begin to practice new things and really pull more of myself out of me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
God, I have so many questions. So my first question is, one of the things that I heard. I was joking about how when I was a baby gay, I was raised by drag queens and butch lesbians, and I'm not kidding. Like, I was around drag queens and butch lesbians. Like, that was my community. And one of the things that I heard from then until now is that once someone puts on the wig, like once the makeup comes on, there's something that turns on for people.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I'm wondering, like, how has that thing, if that thing exists, what does that look like in recovery versus like when you were drinking and using?
So I think that, like with anything else, when you practice it, when you continue, like the more that you perform or whatever, for me, I slowly learned how to get over myself, how to not take myself so seriously, how to practice Rule 62, if you will. And the third step around it, like,
What's Rule 62?
Rule 62 is not taking
Yourself too seriously?
Not taking yourself too seriously. And then the third step, if you're not aware, is like, I can do only what I can. I can put into it, but I need to turn over the results. And so I used to always try to imagine every aspect of my performance and how people would receive that performance. And the truth of it is that folks are going to receive it how they receive it. The best advice that I got was, pick a song that you love and that you enjoy, and perform it in the way that's gonna really kind of brighten your day. And then whoever's supposed to get something from it, they'll get it from that, So
Oh, yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah. For me, like, I would say probably like Josefina. I love her. She's amazing. Now she's amazing. Before, she was just a hot fucking mess. But like with her, she's just very, she's like, she loves to dance. She loves her bubblegum pop, Kim Petra, Cobra, her Charlie XCX.
we're like exact opposites.
And like
Many don't dance.
it's amazing for me. Like, dancing is like an expression of freedom for me. That's, I love to just to like express everything and just kind of just let it go. For me, that's just like, it's like a freedom of escape, where it's just like the energy is like amazing. I can go and perform and do a number on a bubblegum pop song, which all of like Gen Z and the millennials will understand. But if you ask a boomer, they're gonna be like, "What the fuck is he doing?" Oh,
I
sorry.
love how people just forget about Gen X.
Oh yeah, and then Gen X.
It's right between, yeah.
But yeah, it's just like, I love her so much. I think with her, she just reminds me so much of my mom. Whenever I put my makeup on and I turn myself into a woman, like my sister was sometimes like, she'll send me messages and she'd be like, "You look like mom, exactly like my mom." And I would compare pictures to her. And to me, I think I'm a little mirror image of my mother, because I love my mom. She was like a little fashion icon person who would wear her little fashion stuff. And I would see her with her big bows and her big hair and her blood like lipstick and bold, nail polish. And I'm like, I love the way she looks. And I love that.
Celebration of
Yeah, I love the way you're talking about her.
Yeah, and it's funny because anytime I perform, I dedicate those numbers to her, because I know as a little gay boy growing up in Texas, like I was able to like dance and be free who I was as an individual, and I love that. And by having a mother who was completely accepting and me coming out being gay and be like, oh, it's amazing. Yeah.
It's interesting that you should say like it's an escape, because the more I like hear, like the more I'm listening to the conversation between the three of you, is like, it doesn't sound like an escape as much as it like a returning to self, or like a discovery of self. So if there's anything, and like forgive the like rephrasing, but if there's anything being escaped from, it's kind of like the shackles of like the different identities that a person is like forced to kind of acquire. And that there's something about drag that allows for people to be more in touch with the freest parts of themselves.
I would say it's more of like a chariot. It's not an escape. It's the thing that's getting me out. It's what's causing me to get further on from where I'm at. So I think it's more of like a chariot. But I was going to say, like, I hate the thing I hate the most to do in drag is perform on stage. Like, I hate it. It's my least favorite thing to do. The only time I can really do it is when I'm really working. Like in the beginning of my drag, I was really working through a lot of my gender stuff. And so it was very like, I don't know, it was just different. And so I like, but the thing that I enjoy about drag, or that moment that I really feel like I'm in it, is I love to see other people light up when they see me. Like
Absolutely.
that is like the biggest gift, because sometimes I don't have it within myself. Like I might have every rhinestone, like from head to toe, and I'm sparkling as fuck, but inside I'm not connected with that. And then I see somebody else light up because of how I created myself, and it gives me strength. And so it's this cool little reciprocal kind of exchange that lifts one another's spirit. And so for me, it really is it's a spiritual tool for me, for myself, as well as for, like, I think, you know, my purpose in a lot of ways in the world. So like, I love just to get in drag and walk around and let people see me and take pictures with them and talk to them. And, you know, like, that's my favorite thing.
Yeah. We have a comment before we go on. Jaylon writes, at Anthony, for me, there's just a different energy that she has that I have not felt before. It's almost unexplainable. It's something that you have to experience. I feel that there's a new joy that emanates as a result of being present. I feel it and know that because I feel it, it translates, which makes the whole experience and performance better as a whole.
Absolutely.
I love this.
And then Bonnie Violet's point about the chariot, like pulling you out of, it is amazing. I think that is the issues that we have with, you know, when being a young, well, I feel like I was never a young gay.
Oh yeah.
but coming to terms with and not being ashamed of not being all the typical idea of masculine or whatever, but really getting comfortable, since I've gotten comfortable with who Minnie was, and then also in turn who I was, not worrying about what people think about, like, when I move, you know, but really and it's amazing, like, the two of us, we kind of work together. She has made me better, and I continue to make her better as a result of me being better, because I'm able to move around. Like, I feel like she's allowed me to kind of find my personal inner grace. You know, I'm not stumbling around, because I always thought, like, I used to always say, it's like, I never said I was graceful, but the truth of it is like, you know, I float around and I'm more true to who I am as a result of finding her and really kind of allowing her to have a voice. I was going to ask you guys a question.
Well, hold on.
Okay.
But for me, like, I know initially when I see Minnie on stage, there's a few times where I saw you when you were painted up beautiful, you're in that like jet red, like jumpsuit, like the highlight on your face, you were just like, you can just tell you were in that moment, and like you just felt it.
Well, I like to connect with people. I think, like we're saying, I think about if I'm sitting in a chair and I want people to connect with me and acknowledge me. And so that's why I say my aesthetic is fun auntie or mother of the bride, because it's like, I want people to feel safe and warm and welcome and what have you. But my question is, I always joke that Minnie doesn't dance. But Lewis dances. I love dancing. Minnie doesn't. There's some things that she shouldn't do. What doesn't Josefina do or Bonnie do that Bonnie Violet does, that Bonnie Violet does, that Joe, you know what I'm saying? What is there something that and actually Jaylon mentioned it too. It's like there's something that emanates from Seoni that she didn't know she had.
I would say probably with Joelle, like, for me, like, in recovery, like, I'm still kind of like figuring out, like, I'm very shy meeting people. Like, I wouldn't say not like, well, because I know you. Like, say for example, if I was in a group and there was like 6 people there, I would be like really, really shy, because I for me, like, I don't know them. Are they going to judge me? I just get, it's just part of me. Just, I don't know. I just kind of like cringe a little bit, like, oh shit, I really have to speak to these people. Or if I'm speaking somewhere, I get super nervous. But then, like, when Josefina's there, she's just confident. She's just calm. She's just like creative. She can build that like conversation with somebody. For me, because like when I was out drinking and using, like, I was able to have like some kind of substance inside my body, like, regardless, like, I would feel kind of just warm and just kind of relaxed, where I just didn't really care who I talked to. And then when I took myself out of that element and out of that, the whole clubbing situation, and became sober, I was like, how do I, as a individual, as a sober individual, start communicating with people sober? And it was hard for me to like do that, and it's still hard for me now. I know there's sometimes where it looks like, oh, I can have a conversation and have a great conversation and be talking with everybody, but deep down inside, I'm like, oh shit, I have to talk to them. You know, it's very awkward.
Yeah, I hear that.
Well, and I think it's like a role, right? I mean, I think it's easier. I think that's why I like drag too. It's like I can be very inside myself and quiet and not like super like I'm perfectly comfortable just sitting in a room with people, kind of, but not, you know? And so like, but if I have a role in a group of people, then I can kind of begin to get out of myself a little bit more. And like when Lulu was asking about like, what am I outside of drag that's different? And I don't know, like I feel like I'm fairly integrated. I definitely have an understanding of what my drag is and what isn't, but I still think I'm learning a lot from drag. Like I don't know that like play is something that I've really not been good at. And I feel like now that I have my feminine, like I'm comfortable in my femininity, I can play with drag a little bit more and be a little bit more artistic. And I don't have to look, like, you know what I mean? Like it's feeding a different part of me. And so it's almost more of like an inner child or a play aspect versus, for me trying to, connect with my gender or whatever.
I hear that.
So
Yeah.
that's so I think it's still kind of a tool for me. I don't know what I am outside. You know what I mean? I don't know yet.
Yeah. So, gosh, we have to land the plane, but we still will continue to record after this. But before we land the plane, Josefina, you have a couple of things coming up. Do you want to tell us about it?
I do. So you can always follow me at Josefina Monroe at Instagram. So I do have a few shows coming up. I do have a show coming up next Saturday at Mascara.
Is that next Saturday?
It's next Saturday.
Already?
Yes. And then I also
Saturday after next, not
this Saturday, but the following Saturday. And then once a month on the second Saturday of each month, I do perform at an event called Time Out at the Eagle. And then
you can find her on Cap Street.
Yes. And so if you're if you like pups and cubs, please come. We love money, and I love to support everybody in the community. And then also too, in April, I'm going to be one of the contestants for Drag Battle Season 3. So I will be there performing, hopefully trying to win some form of title. But yeah, I mean, I'm performing everywhere. So
wait, you forgot one.
Oh, and then also too,
Rafael, who is the reigning Castro Country Club, is letting us know that Mascara is on 217. Yeah, but
get it right, hooker.
So tell us about The Edge.
Yeah, so The Edge is a place where we do a lot of performings as well. So I also want to shout out to the San Francisco Ducal Court. I'm part of the Royal Prince X. Our reigning Duke is Ray. And then we do a lot of fundraising for the nonprofit organizations, Castro Country Club, and we host an event once a month. It's at the Eagle. So come out and support us. You can follow us on any social media. And the money that you donate and we raised goes to support nonprofit organizations. And it's a great way to raise money and to help our community. And for me, being sober and giving back to community is very crucial. And I'm very happy to perform. I'm happy to dance in any corner to get money to the Castro Country Club.
Thank you. And I love it. Yeah, I love that the origin of your drag. You were talking about how like your drag mother was talking about giving back to the community, and here you are years later doing very much that. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Before we go into our behind the
podcast
screen,
exclusive,
Bonnie, tell us Bonnie Violet, tell us about your new podcast.
Oh, yeah. It's Cut and Uncut. It's a recovery podcast with Daphne, who was on an episode a while back. And so we're both two trans people talking about our lives. So it's everything. She transitioned when she was a teen. I transitioned like a couple of years ago, so she's Black, I'm white. She lives in Chicago. I live in like Idaho. So we have a lot of like connections, but a lot of difference as well. And so we're excited to kind of explore that with one another and share that with people who want to listen. And then I just wanted to give a shout out for our next 3 episodes. are also going to have like guest drag artists. Next week is going to be Linda Summers on drag growth, and then Tango Lele on reclaiming your drag. And then after that will be Pollo Del Mar doing making your drag work for you. So I
The
just want to shout
illustrious
out
Pollo Del Mar.
You were naming that, and I'm all, that sounds like our guest.
Yeah.
that's what I meant.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, yes, for the Castro Country Club.